and warm greetings. I'm reporting from the Global GNH Forum 2025 here at Dunkerzong, Paro. This year's forum is especially meaningful as it commemorates the 70th birth anniversary of His Majesty, the 4th Gyalpo Singye Wangchuck, and celebrates 50 years of visionary philosophy of gross national happiness.
Green schools are a very important strategy to implement the big vision of the country, otherwise called gross national happiness. If gross national happiness is a vision of a good society, in the same way, a green school system is the vision of a holistic and meaningful learning system. So, just as gross national happiness perspective underscores the need for building a good society, so also a green school underscores the need for building a good education system, because if education succeeds, no nation can fail. Education failing, no nation can succeed. That's why the ultimate goal of gross national happiness and the goal of a green school model is the same: the building of a good society by building good life. Education or learning is actually a normative activity. It is a normative service. The way things are anywhere in the world are not complete or adequate. So we have to aim at building a good society, aim at building a good world. And education must be leveraged to support the building of a good world, the building of a good society. So without taking care of our mother nature, our environment, we will not be able to sustain life. That is why the aim of education ought to embrace also the need to protect the integrity of Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is the provider of all life and thereby supporting life. So education without environmental consciousness, education without being able to appreciate the need to support the integrity of Mother Nature will be a failed education system. That is why there is an intimate relationship between the normative influence of education, the normative power or the normative function of education, and the expectations of Mother Nature to be looked after sensitively and responsibly. The major issue with education around the world today is that it is highly reductionistic. Education is being used as a tool to prepare young people to fit the needs of the commercial employment market, the need of corporations, factories, without much regard to the need to celebrate life, to improve life, to make life meaningful. Because at the end of the day, for me, education is about appreciating the primacy and the preciousness of life. The first principle of education, the first principle of learning is the appreciation and preservation of life. In Dzongkha we say, Milu Rinpoche, and all life is precious, but human life is the most precious of all. And for me, the first lesson of education, the first lesson in learning must be the appreciation and the preservation, celebration of life, which is precious and which is so very important. So appreciating and celebrating the preciousness and primacy of life in all its forms is the first principle of education. I think it is most relevant because green school is holistic. In my green school, there are 8 elements minimum, and if we are able to awaken these 8 levels of consciousness in our learners, in our young people, our boys and girls, when they become leaders, members of the society later, they will be environmentally conscious, they will be socially conscious, they will be culturally, intellectually, academically, aesthetically, spiritually, and ethically conscious. And these are the elements that make us who we are. And if we are able to awaken these important elements in us, we provide a good education, holistic education, harmonious and well-integrated education. Today's education is highly mentalistic, intellectual, but human beings are more than the mind. We are more than the intellect. There are so many elements, important elements that make us who we are and that make the children who they are. So when our children are in our schools, colleges and universities for long periods of time, we must be able to address and celebrate, support and empower all these different elements that make us and that make them who they are. Otherwise, we'll be leaving out some of the very important elements and concentrating on the one element, that is the intellectual element, to make them smart, to make them street smart, and just to get by. But life is more than being able to succeed in the material world. They have to be able to celebrate life. They have to be able to discover the beauty and the mystery and the meaning of life. And to do this, we have to approach education in a very holistic, integrated and harmonious way. My green school is an attempt, is an effort in the direction of making education holistic and meaningful and purposeful. My green school is an attempt to invest some integrity in the process of teaching and learning. And green school model of learning is actually quite widely accepted and used around the world, with something like 19 different translations of my green school in the major languages of the world, and more translations happening around the world. I think given the kind of interest that people in many parts of the world take in the green school approach to education, I feel that there is also a reawakening of interest in green school within the country. As a matter of fact, I did not write this little booklet for anybody outside Bhutan. When we introduced this program called Educating for Gross National Happiness in 2009, I did it with the help of my colleagues for our children in Bhutan, for our teachers, for our fellow citizens, and for our country. But over a period of time, a lot of people outside Bhutan have been interested in this. They have welcomed it, and they feel that this is the way to go, the green approach to education. If education means anything, it has to be a system that approaches and that takes into account all the multiple elements that make human beings who they are, and we need to celebrate these. I think we have some way to go. We have made some good beginning, and a lot of our young people get inspired by the ideas that we have included in my green school approach. Our fellow teachers, particularly the senior ones who have been through the green school model of training, are still implementing a lot of the ideas that we initiated in 2009. And I feel that education is not a very simplistic, cut and dry, unidimensional approach. Education is a multifaceted, complex, subtle, and very sophisticated endeavor to make the society a better place, to make the world a better place, to make life more beautiful. So it is not very neat, as many other disciplines could be. Education can never be neat, but it can be and ought to be idealistic. Education ought to be able to move a few steps ahead of the society. And to be able to move a few steps ahead of the society, education must aim higher. It must aim bigger. It must elevate the mind. It must broaden the heart. It must edify the people. It must lift the spirit. It must make the world a better place. So the aim of education is far beyond preparing people for the job market, as important as it is, for employment, as urgent as it may be. Education ought to aim higher, ought to achieve higher, ought to be much more meaningful and purposeful than only all the investment that we make in education. All the time that our young people spend in our institutions will be worthwhile. So education ought to look beyond, it ought to aspire more, it ought to elevate itself, it ought to invest itself with some level of integrity. Otherwise, all will be a waste.